So, last time we talked about the southeastern and Gulf cultures, that section of Indians, and today we're talking about the Pueblo and Plains cultures. And after getting some feedback from you guys, I decided to implement a little Charles because you said to make it more exciting. So, we're going to try to make it as exciting as we can and still keep it about under 10 minutes. So again, last time we did southeastern and Gulf cultures. Today we're going to do Pueblo and Plains cultures. So the first Native American tribe we're going to talk about, and maybe Charles can take this one, is the Humanos. So if you want to know how to spell that, and remember, you should be taking notes because I'm going to expect you to have these next class, alright? Alright, so Charles, let's hear from you about the Humano tribe. Alright, so they lived by trading and hunting bison. Where's the camera? Is it? No, it's okay. It's over there, Charles. Oh, okay, sorry. Humanos. Look at it. I'm so handsome. Okay, focus, Charles, focus. Okay, they lived by trading and hunting bison, and they acted as like a middleman between eastern farming tribes like the Caddos and the western Pueblo people. A middleman is like someone, like say you want to pass a note to your friend and you give it to another friend to give to that friend, so then you would be the middleman, just like the Humanos were. Anyway, they had distinctive striped tattoos on their face, and that like told the other tribes that they were peaceful traders. I want to get a tattoo on my face. No, tattoo. You can't, Charles, you can't get a tattoo on it. You should get a tattoo on your face. No, I'm not going to get a tattoo on my face. Anyway, too much shenanigans. Okay, so, like Charles mentioned, the Humanos were a peaceful trading tribe, hunted bison, acted as this middleman, and they were a lot less focused on war and things like that. They were not nomadic, however. Their houses were made out of sun-dried earth known as adobe. Write that in your notes. Adobe. And again, that sun-dried earth they made their houses out of. Since the climate there was really dry, the houses lasted for years. I mean, they were very sturdy. Another Pueblo people that we're going to talk about are the Tiguas. I'll cover the Tiguas because Charles, you're getting on my nerves. Now, the Tiguas moved to what was called Isleta, which is near present-day El Paso, and their descendants live in the same area actually today. So this is one of the few Native American tribes we'll talk about that still has descendants living in that same area. So that's pretty cool. So those two, the ones we just talked about, that Charles talked about, the Humanos, and then the one I just talked about real quick, the Tiguas. These are the two that were on the Pueblo. They're called the Pueblo cultures. And we're talking, they lived mainly in the mountains and basins region, things like that. So, these two. The next two we're going to talk about are the Plains cultures. So remember how we talked in class about the Bering Land Bridge where all the ice came up and people were able to travel across it? Remember I had you guys go outside and we like recreated that map and it had you walk across it. So something that walked across that bridge were horses too, not just the humans and the mammoths, but also horses. Now, unfortunately, most of them became extinct, but by 1500, Spaniards had brought the horses back and reintroduced horses to the area. Again, that was by about 1500. Can you reintroduce me to the area? Because I want to talk about the Plains cultures. All right. Fine, Charles. Fine. You take it away. What do you have to say to the people about the Plains cultures? Well, what was I going to... Oh, right. So, anyway, the Spaniards gave some horses to some of the Native Americans. Well, they didn't give them. It's just like the horses were able to be there because the Spanish brought them, and they had little horse babies, and they were able to, be there. So, anyway, they're horses in Texas. That's what you got to know. So, like I was saying, they learned, the Native Americans who were on the plains, learned to use the horses to their advantage. That's why we're talking about that. Now, something else you need to know about the Plains culture Indians is that buffalo are a type of bison, okay? Buffalo are a type of bison. Buffalo are a type of bison. They're both not the same thing. Say buffalo. Buffalo is what you say. Buffalo. Anyway, so the buffalo were there. Roaming the plains, they were a huge part of Native American life. But the hunters destroyed the buffalo, and by the late 1800s, most of the buffalo were sadly extinct. It's very sad, Charles. Very sad. Now, we just sort of gave you a general overview of the Plains cultures. And now we're going to talk about some of the specific tribes within the Plains cultures, mainly Tonkawas. I want to talk about the Tonkawas. No, I want to talk about the Tonkawas. I'm going to talk about the Tonkawas. Anyway, Tonkawas. The Tonkawas of the Plains cultures arrived in Texas in the 1600s, and they actually lived near Austin. So when we talk about the Tonkawas and we look around at what's in Austin, before we were here, it was the Tonkawas, who were the Plains culture peoples that were here. They were never really a large tribe because they couldn't compete with the fierce Apache or Comanche warriors that we're going to talk about next. And so they never really could be very competitive as far as buffalo hunting went. However, instead they ate rabbits, turtles, snakes, yummy, and they were in constant conflict with other tribes. So speaking of some of these tribes that went after or made the life of the Tonkawas hard, we have the Apache. And the Apache were in Texas by 1700. They're believed to have migrated from the north. Many Apaches lived in what is today the Hill Country, and today most Apaches lived on reservations in New Mexico. The Apaches were very focused on war culture. They were very stringent, very fierce about defending their territory, so you did not want to mess with an Apache. Now, the last group second to last group we're going to talk about, again, Plains culture, is the Comanche. Now, the Comanche life centered on two activities, hunting and war. A Comanche buffalo hunt was a huge event. It involved large groups of the tribesmen. What they called the area of land that they owned was the Comancheria. So it's like take the word Comanche and then add R-I-A at the end. So again, that large tract of land they held was called the Comancheria, and that covered areas through Texas, New Mexico, and even into Kansas and Oklahoma, with what is today those states. Back then it obviously wasn't. So they fought really fiercely again to keep this large tract of land. They were very fierce fighters. Now, the Kiowas were smart. They were allied to the Comanches, and like the Comanches, they were nomadic, and they were very prepared to move quickly. In fact, a whole camp could be packed up and moved in like 30 minutes. Imagine if someone said you had to pick up your whole house and leave no trace of it in 30 minutes. Anyway, well, we're not nomadic, but the Kiowas were, and they could do that. Families lived in teepees of tanned hides that were easy to move. However, one teepee was made of up to 20 hides, so we're not necessarily talking like the size of a tent. We're talking about a giant teepee that several families could occupy. Now, the Kiowas believed in things like honoring the sun would bring happiness, and plentiful buffalo and victory in war and all those other things. So they were very into, the sun god and honoring the sun. And every male within the Kiowa culture and the Comanche culture as well were expected to become warriors. I am a warrior. I would be a great Comanche. No, you wouldn't, Charles. You're kind of a wimp, actually. Shut up. Charles, that's not me. Anyway. Okay, so before Charles gets any crazier, we're done talking to you about the Pueblos and Plains culture. Quick review, the people we talked to you about today. In the Plains were the Humanos, the Tiguas. Those are our Pueblo people. And in the Plains people are the Tonkawas, the Apache, the Comanche, and the Kiowa. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.